Welcome everyone to our weekly introspection question. So as you might remember from last week, we introduced one big question which could be part of your introspection and we decompose it in a few smaller questions. So the big question for this week is, what if you don't want to go back to life before COVID? I think many people are wondering what they would answer to that. And Julie, you have been already reflecting a bit on this question. And so maybe let's start with what you appreciated in COVID, the lockdown, all the other things. What did you like about it?
Yeah, so I loved the alone time. That's probably the main thing for me. So during COVID, I had a lot of time to read books. And by reading books, I read one book, Quiet by Susan Cain. It's a book about introspection, about introverts, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I was an introvert, but I was living the life of an extrovert.
Wow.
By realizing that, in combination with the fact that you had to stay inside, I really enjoyed taking so much time for myself. Yeah, that was fantastic.
So it was a perfect excuse.
It was a perfect excuse not to live the very social, busy life that I had before.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine. If you're introvert, it must have been heaven.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
So we're slowly getting out of the COVID crisis. What are you afraid of? What are you not looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm trying to be really conscious of not getting wrapped up in this social life that just seems to happen, and you get dragged into it, or I get dragged into it at least. I find it really difficult sometimes to say no to things, both not to insult someone else, but also for myself. I do want to be social, but yeah, I don't want to be dragged into all sorts of things that I don't consciously choose to do.
Yeah. Okay, and what does it tell about you?
Well, I think it says that I just need to take a bit more time to decide whether or not I will say yes to something. And make conscious choices. Like I know that I'm capable of doing every evening of the week something, but then I'll need the whole weekend to recover, and I don't want that. I want to also enjoy my weekend. So I think I'll have to be more aware of who I am, and then schedule my week accordingly. Yeah.
Is that something you're already experimenting with right now?
Yeah. So
how does that go?
In that sense, it's really good that now that lockdown is ending, it's really bad weather, so there's not so much to do. That's really helpful.
You're still in your comfort zone.
Yeah. But I really like experimenting with this approach of doing something alternatingly. So really having, if I have something to do one evening, then the next evening there's nothing on my plate. Yeah.
And you talked about saying no. I think it's a very difficult thing. What helps you to say no in a positive way, or?
Yeah, I think it's a 2-step process or a 3-step process maybe.
Okay.
First off is I've told a lot of people close to me, like you, but also other friends and even family members, that I need a lot of time for myself. So they know. They know it's not when I say no that it's an insult. They know that it's because I need time for myself. That's a really good start, because it opens the possibility of saying no.
Yeah.
And then second, what I do if I get an invitation or a request, I take a little bit of time to check in with myself. So instead of getting this, WhatsApp message, hey, everybody up for, drinks tomorrow, where in the past I would have just typed yes and then afterwards been like, oh no, I actually don't want to. Now I will put my phone away, take like even if it's 2 seconds, to think, okay, do I want that? And I let the answer come from here rather than from automatic pilot of my
Automatic
thumbs.
response.
Yeah. And then instead of just saying no, which comes across really harsh, I also will not make up an excuse, because I did that in the past and it's not nice. But I'll just say something like, no, I need to recharge my batteries, or no, I need some me time, but I would love to see you soon.
Yeah.
And that makes it a lot easier to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the week after you have 5 people asking.
Yeah, yeah, this is true. No, I think people really understand, and I feel like because I tell people I need me time, they also start telling me, yeah, I actually also sometimes need me time. So owning who I am is helping other people own the same thing. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so I remember that COVID has helped you to get back closer to your true nature, which is more introvert and being more alone, and also helped you to say no in a more conscious way going forward, to be sure that you keep your energy balanced and going forward. You don't have to go back to the exact same situation before COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that with us, Julie.
You're welcome.
And see you next time.